Nintendo Switch 2 has finally been made official. It took a while, but we finally got here. After 8 years, Nintendo finally revealed a new console. Now, I'm very delayed to this topic, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. There's quite a bit to unpack here actually. The showcase was a lot more play it safe this time around. A fancy animation showcased the Nintendo Switch 2 itself without all the theatrics of the original Nintendo Switch reveal. This, as well as it being a bigger, better Nintendo Switch console, left a lot of people both disappointed and underwhelmed. Although I'm not quite sure what they expected, considering they asked for a Nintendo Switch 2 and the Nintendo Switch 2 was always gonna be a bigger, better, more improved version of the Nintendo Switch. It was quite obvious this was gonna be the case because the Nintendo Switch was a winning formula. It was a formula that worked and was pretty popular, so why would you try and reinvent the wheel? The fact that it is just a bigger, better, more powerful Nintendo Switch is actually something I'm pretty excited for, as are a lot of others. The reveal showcased the Switch 2 as well as the Joy-Cons and had a little snippet of a clip of the Joy-Con joysticks wiggling around and then the Joy-Cons themselves sliding across the table. This is an Easter egg to the original problems with the first Switch, which was stick drift when it first released. But there are rumors that the Joy-Cons sliding around on the table may be a hint at a new feature these Joy-Cons will have that'll allow it to be used as a mouse for certain games. Nevertheless, if the joysticks moving around is an Easter egg to stick drift, then it would be a reassurance that this time around that won't happen, but we'll see. The way the Joy-Cons attach is also different this time around. Instead of it sliding and snapping into place, it's now got a mechanism that allows it to simply click into place. It seems magnetic. This brought up a lot of concerns with a lot of people thinking that this mechanism would be a lot more easier to break than the original mechanism. But knowing that Nintendo has put some years into making this product, I don't think it's going to be that easy to break or easy at all for the matter. I'm pretty sure they worked out how they designed the Switch 2 well enough to avoid those kind of issues. The reveal of the Switch 2 actually came out after a lot of leaks, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. Some of the leaks were actually kind of validated by the official Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, which means there's a good chance that all the other details that were leaked, such as specs of the Nintendo Switch 2, might also be true. More rumors are that the Nintendo Switch 2 will actually be as powerful as a PS4 Pro, which I think is great. Now, some of you next-gen Andes might think that being a console in this generation, it should be as powerful as other consoles in just this generation, and would be unsatisfied at having a console as powerful as a last generation console. I said console a lot, but the fact is, the Nintendo Switch doesn't aim for hyper-realistic graphics like other platforms. So having it be as powerful as a PS4 Pro is more than fine for the games it has, and will have, because the very soul of Nintendo has always been its games, and that soul, majority of the time, is very animated and stylized. It doesn't require as much power as a ray-traced hyper-realistic graphical enhanced game, but nevertheless, one of the biggest gripes with the original Nintendo Switch is how underpowered it was, so much so that it struggled to even run its own games at a stable frame rate. Games like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom suffered a lot, and even games like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which looked awful. You would think a game like that with the level of graphics it actually had would run a lot better, but that could also be because of poor optimization on the developer's part. This will also mean that a lot of third-party developers will be able to port their games to the Switch 2 and have it run a lot better. I'm sure a lot of you know that the original Switch also had a lot of ports such as Doom, Alan Wake Remastered, and so on, that also kind of struggled. I don't think Doom struggled that much, but I do know that Alan Wake and Witcher 3 and Mortal Kombat, those type of games struggled. So it'll be nice to have a handheld console from Nintendo that can actually run those games. It opens up the doors of opportunity for third-party developers to bring more games into the Switch that the original Switch could not handle. And having a Switch as powerful as the PS4 will mean a substantially better gameplay experience of the original Switch games. Because yes, the Nintendo Switch 2 is backwards compatible, which means those 300 games that you've been storing up from Nintendo because you're a die-hard fan will not be sitting and collecting dust. In fact, you can have a whole new experience with it running better. And in the case of third-party developers, let's not forget that other companies such as Microsoft has not been so secret about wanting to put their games on other platforms, including Game Pass. So who knows, maybe we'll have Game Pass on Nintendo Switch in the future. The only concern that the Switch 2 would have had would be on sales, because back when the original Switch released, it released at a time there was nothing else like it in the market, at least not successfully. The Nintendo Wii U was a much older console and it also wasn't as successful. But other than Nintendo, no one else was really doing portable consoles, and absolutely no one else was doing portable consoles that switched between a dock mode and a handheld mode simply by taking out the Joy-Con and putting it back and putting it into a dock. It was a system that no one has ever seen before and everyone bought into pretty quick, even with the lack of games on it at the time of release. And I'm pretty sure no one regrets those decisions, because now the Nintendo Switch holds thousands upon thousands of games and a lot of exclusives. But right now there are other things like it in the market. Platforms such as the Steam Deck, the Lenovo Legion Go, or the Asus ROG Alloy, and let's be real, those platforms run Nintendo Switch games too technically, but we won't get deeper into that. So having the Switch 2 release now means there are other competitors. Or are they? See, Nintendo fans know why they buy a Nintendo console, whether it's for the exclusives or the fact that they're a Nintendo fan. Having these other platforms on the market doesn't really stop people from wanting to buy a Nintendo Switch, so I don't think that the Switch 2 will suffer from sales, especially if people buy the Switch 2 like how they bought the Switch. And when I say that, I mean people who bought the Nintendo Switch. Typically, a lot of them bought multiple Switches for the household, whether it was one for themselves, their partner, their children, maybe one for the living room. Some of them bought extra Switch Lites, especially for games like Animal Crossing, which could only have one island per Switch. Buying multiple Switches was actually a pretty normal thing to do. In the case of the Switch 2, it could be very possible way less people will buy multiple Switch 2s, considering that they would already have Switches in the household. But given how popular the Switch was, there's definitely going to be millions of sales for the Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch was one of the most popular consoles to ever release, next to the PS2, which is a big margin of sales. In terms of games, there's only really been one new game showed to us in the Nintendo Switch trailers, and that's been what everyone has spotted as Mario Kart 9. Now, it hasn't been said in the trailer that it is Mario Kart 9, but trained eyes who's played Mario Kart 8 and before can spot the difference. However, the Nintendo Switch Direct is gonna come, and I'm sure we're gonna see a lot of interesting titles that are just gonna be mwah. Especially games like Metroid Prime 4, which we know is coming out, but we haven't actually seen anything about yet. And who knows, maybe we'll get a new Zelda game, because we did get quite a bit on the Switch. It would be cool if we got to see a game like a Zelda game launch with the Switch 2 similar to the Switch, but Mario Kart 9 is pretty cool as well. Anyway, I'm excited for the Switch 2. Let me know in the comments if you are, and also if you're a Nintendo fan, what games would you like to see on the Switch 2? What games you want to come out the most? Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!